Over the last 20 years, the NHL has experienced a significant inflation in standings point totals for hockey teams. You may know this phenomenon as the loser point, but really we should be calling it the winner point. Let's talk about it. Here is the current standings of the NHL at the time of making this video. All of the top 10 teams in the NHL have a points percentage over 600. Over the last decade or so since the last NHL lockout, this is pretty standard. There are only 3 instances where a team under a 600 points percentage has been in the top 10 at the end of the season, and 2 of those 3 instances come from shortened seasons for various reasons. So this is the new standard of the NHL and has been for a while now. If you look back into the 2000s to the full lockout of 03-04, you will start to see the root of the problem. Yes, there are a couple more instances of teams being under 600 in the top 10 across that span, but for the most part, the trend holds true. And this all boils back down to the shootout. The introduction of the shootout guaranteed any game that goes to overtime will award 3 points, except technically if you pull your goalie and get scored on a very specific scenario that has almost never happened ever. Prior to that 2000s lockout, games would end in ties regularly, which led to just 2-point games. 3-point games did happen. Teams scored in overtime, but they were not all that common. The difference is substantial. In fact, just a handful of years before the lockout, a Pittsburgh Penguin team managed to make it into the top 10 of the NHL standings, just 2 games above 500. And there are, of course, multiple factors here. From a skill perspective, the NHL has never been more talented than it is today. And the parity of the league is very good, just on a general level, but those numbers are being inflated by these 3-point games. Every game guaranteed to have a winner pushes win totals up significantly. And while that does mean every game is guaranteed to have a loser as well, those loser points are still doing work, even if it is the winner's point that is really driving these upward trend in total points in the standings. All of this is just to say that the NHL is experiencing higher point totals on a standings perspective than ever across the course of the league, and it has never been harder to win in the NHL or even make it into the playoffs. While there's still teams at the very top that can comfortably make it in by winning their divisions or the President's Trophy, when you get into the battle for even divisional seeding, the number of points required and the amount of success you have to produce in the NHL in the modern era is the highest it's ever been.